Hey guys, I'm really pumped to show you this new product that I've put up on Multitracks, the Ultimate Analog Collection. So what I've done is I've sampled one of my favorite analog keyboards to date, really comprehensively. There's like over 100 patches here, and I got permission from Moog to do this, and it's a sample of my Moog Sub 37. It's quite big actually, 100 patches, and it works out at close to 8 gigs unzipped. And because it's quite a big library, Multitracks decided to have it in smaller download zip files, so you can download section by section, and you don't have to download the whole thing in one go, and you can split it up. And it also means if you have internet troubles or computer problems while you're downloading it, you don't have to try to download that one big file again. So what you need to do, once you've downloaded all the samples and you've got this main stage template downloaded, just right click, go to show package contents, and then go to samples, and all you need to do is drop all those samples into that folder. So it should look like that. Then come out, double click on that, and it'll open up just like I've got it opened here. Another thing that I should mention is Multitracks watermarks all their WAV files and samples, just to deter people from pirating them and putting them up online for people to download. But the good thing about that is there's no authorization. So there's no dongles, there's no special code that you need to type in to authorize it. It just opens up and you can use it. You can put it on your laptop, you can put it on your home computer and do it without the hassle of that. And before I get started into all this, I should also mention this video here. So if you're trying to import and export these patches into Logic X or another mainstage template, check out the importing and exporting mainstage patches video here. If you've got time, check out the Ultimate Mainstage Collection walkthrough and new mainstage tips and tricks. That's a very long title, but in it I give you a bunch of kind of practical tips that you can apply to this library as well. So to save me from doubling up and talking about that in this video, if you can, check out that one. Great. So I'll get into a little bit of my thoughts behind the library and how I designed the mainstage template. Originally what I was going to do is I was going to create pad versions, ARP versions, mono lead versions, separate sidechain versions, and so you've got all these options within the library. But then I figured out the library is going to be close to 400 patches, 400 presets long if I did that. So what I decided to do is take the 100 patches that I've got and let you create all those different types of patches from each sound. So as you can see here, we've got an ARP button. If you push that, it engages the ARP for every single patch. I've got it set up with a single bar because that's the most commonly used ARP that I like to use, but you can come in here and change that and create your own rhythms and patterns for that. You've got a mono button here, and what that does is obviously makes the patch mono. If that's off, it's a polyphonic patch, so you can use it as a pad. Then we've got sliders here. By moving the slider up, it'll add the side chaining pulse. By moving this slider up, it'll add portamento or glide, so you can glide between notes. That's really popular with lead sounds especially. This one adds a kind of shimmery reverb. It's got an octave pitch shift on it, so that's really nice, especially for pads. This one's a more subtle one. It doesn't have the pitch shift on the reverb. So I like to use this one more on prominent attack sounds and bass sounds, but you can combine them both if you want. Then we've got a delay that you can add to any of the patches that you've selected, and this last one is width, so it's adding modulation kind of chorus. And the reason why I had that is the keyboard that I sampled is essentially a mono keyboard, but having this width slider allows you to make it into a stereo patch. So those are all the buttons and sliders and everything. The last one I'll mention, which you probably know if you've watched other videos, is the mod wheel is mapped to the low pass filter, and basically all that does is allows you to make any patch mellow, and it takes off the top end all the way to really bright and more in your face. Now if we look on the left hand side, we've got everything split up into 4 sections. At the top we've got basic waveforms. I wanted to give you the building blocks of this analog keyboard so you could create your own patches, and you could have it at its simplest form, and then you could also have some more complex patches down here. So basic wave 1 is a sine wave, and as you go down the list it turns into a triangle saw wave all the way to a square wave at the bottom. Now these things in brackets, like the wide in brackets, because it's a mono keyboard, I want to give you some stereo versions, and the way I did that is I duplicated the patch, I panned it left and right, and then I just took it down a little bit, pitch shifted a little bit down, and pitch shifted it up. This is just fine tuning. It's only like 5 cents per side, but it makes it really wide and stereo opposed to just a mono patch. So anything with wide in brackets, that's what I've done to it. So anything with drive in brackets is the same version as before, like this one, but I've cranked the overdrive. So I've cranked the multi-drive knob and just added some really nice analog distortion to it. I love analog distortion. It's so warm and rich, and the harmonics that it adds is really nice. So I wanted to give you a clean version and an overdrive version, and that's analog overdrive. It's not just adding a overdrive digital plugin. So that's the reasoning behind that. And then another kind of patch is a combination patch, and this is when it's got two names in one patch, and you probably can figure out what that is. It's a combination of those two sounds. I picked sounds that I thought worked really well together and kind of created a combination patch of those. Great. Let's go from the top. I'm not going to go through every single sound because they're all up on multi-tracks. You can hear every single sound separately if you want to, but it's going to take me a long time to get through this video if I go through every single one. But I basically want to show you the layout, just basically how you can use these different sliders and buttons and stuff to create an interesting sound from these samples. I should also mention that another reason why I did put in basic waveforms is because we actually use them a lot at church. For example, the last Hillsong worship album that we recorded, we doubled all the bass lines with a basic sine wave, and we also gave our mix engineer a more aggressive version and a more harmonically rich version to double all the real bass width. So you could use that the same way, just to double your bass. And the good thing about a sine wave is it's really clean, it's really good in your low end, and it just adds a lot of bottom end fatness. So that's another reason why I did that. And like I said, these ones are pretty basic, so they don't sound too crazy interesting, but it's great to have the basic building blocks. Okay, let's get into this. This is basic wave 1. As you could hear, there was just a basic sine wave patch, and I added some of those effects and stuff in real time so you could hear those. I won't go through all of these, all up on multi-tracks. Let's get on to some more interesting sounds here. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, let's move on to another one. I really like this. I love my 8-bit sounds, as you've probably seen from other videos. And so I've got a whole lot of different 8-bit kind of gaming sounds in this library that you can use however you want. So you got that kind of thing. You can make it wider and put reverb on and that kind of thing as well if you really want. Here's another one of those. I love these. This one's pretty cool as well. The 8-bit grind, it's got a lot of drive on it, so you can use it as a low-end kind of bass sound. These work better in mono. A little trick I like to do, which I showed in the other video, the Ultimate Mainstage Collection, is to make the sound even fatter. Crank this drive knob here, and just back it off a little bit volume-wise because it adds a lot of gain to the patch. But listen to it now, and it sounds a lot fatter. And before. Different sounds, but if you want a bit more fatness, crank that drive, back off the volume, and you can get it from doing that. Okay, let's go down to brassy wide and show you that one. Another thing I'll mention is when you're importing them into Logic X and you're actually using them to grid with click track and all that kind of stuff, it might pay to change this from LFO1 to LFO2. It'll give you the same sound, but it will sync better with your grid and tempo. The way it's set up at the moment, the pulse starts as soon as you hit the note or the chord. Play around with that and change it to LFO2 if you're inside Logic X. Okay, let's do this combination sound because I really like this. It's just a little bit of a different version of the brassy 2. As you can see, I'm just moving sliders and just giving you an idea of how you can add reverb and width even while you're playing. Now this sounds really cool. You might not know, but Ben Tenney actually used the same analog keyboard on the Empires album, and we also used it on the recent Hillsong Worship album that's about to be released in a month, I think. But for the song Touch the Sky, this keyboard was used as the main lead line. So to get that lead sound, just turn mono on. You can add a little bit of glide, not too much. If you want, you can add a touch of reverb just to make it sound, touch of reverb, just to make it a little bit wider, a little bit obviously reverby, and then move the mod wheel down so it's not too bright. You can make that same sound into a pad if you wanted to, take the mono off, maybe add some more reverb. I like the width slider, so I use that a lot. Again, if you want it fatter, move the drive up, back that off a little bit. If you want it to be a bit more mellow, like I've showed in another video, you can just add some attack to it. So basically all this means is it takes longer for the sound to reach its maximum volume. So I might do it like that, bring the mod wheel down a little bit, and you'll hear that it's a little bit more subtle. And you can do that to any of the patches in here. Just experiment with the attack, and you can even experiment with the release if you want it to last a little bit longer when you release the keys. Okay, there's so many sounds in here. I might just do this one actually. This one has an auto wah on it, so I'll give you the wide version with the auto wah. When the mod wheel's down, it wahs. When the mod wheel is up, it doesn't. So you can use that either as a pad, or you can turn the mono on and use it more as a bass sound. Like I said, all of these are up on multi-track, so I'm going to skip a bunch of these, but they're all really usable. These are probably my favorite samples. They have prominent attack. These are just labeled pads, leads, basses. I could have put pads, leads, basses, rhythmic sounds, sidechain, but that was a bit crazy, because you can use all of those as a pad, lead, bass, rhythmic patch, anything. But these ones I put in the category prominent attack because they have a really prominent front end to them, and I'll show you them. Again, I really like doing this to some of the sounds, so let's do this. I really like that sound. That sounds really popular at the moment. You can take it down an octave, and you get that really EDM type sound. I know Justin Bieber and Skrillex got together and produced a song recently. I can't remember what the name is, but it uses a sound really similar to that. And again, the same sound, but well, it's actually a resample of the sound with overdrive. Let's add that drive into here. And you get a really, really fat kind of sound when you combine this fat drive with the analog drive of this one. Let's go down to, this is really cool. I really do like the sound. It reminds me of an old song, I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt, and that's why I've called it Moog Doubt. If you remember, it goes something like this. So that's a kind of fun lead sound that reminds me of a song that was way, way back in my era. Funk Pluck. This is really cool too. It gives you a really nice funky pluck sound, obviously. Add some delay to something like this and it really comes alive. It's really cool. Funk Pluck 2, just a variation of that one. And by combining a couple of these patches, you get this. Again, if you want to make it even fatter, just open up both of these, crank the drive, take that back a little bit, do the same for this one. Now I didn't set this up by default because this analog keyboard has nice analog overdrive, and not everyone wants to put digital overdrive on top of the analog overdrive, but I'm just showing you this so you can do it if you want. I actually prefer using a lot of these patches with this drive, so let's try it again. Okay, let's try one more from this. Actually, let's try two. I like Space Banjo. This is a really interesting sound. I kind of like this one a lot. Rubber Glass. I named it that because it kind of sounds like that. Check this out. Okay, let's skip all these. Like I said, they're up on multi-tracks. Let's go to some of these alternative ones. Let's take the delay and width and everything off, just to give you the raw sample. Like I said before, with any of these patches you can make it into an ARP or mono or whatever, so I'll try doing a little bit of this and see what we get. Okay, res drop, let's try that one. These are really cool. I wanted to do samples where the circuits were kind of freaking out and I was pushing it really hard, so you get this kind of broken analog sound when you do that. Same kind of thing with the Freaky Moog. But it creates kind of a really interesting lead sound, so you can use that however you want. This is one of my favorites actually, Theremin 37. Let's add some reverb and some width to it to make it a little bit bigger. And then lastly, we've got a couple of percussion sounds. You've got an analog kick and analog snare toms. I'll show you this one, but like I said, they're all up on multi-tracks. So that's a selection of a bunch of the sounds in here. If you want to hear even more audio demos, just go to multi-tracks and you can hear all the individual sound clips for these sounds. Before I go, I'll just quickly mention one little other tip. Let's say there's some of these sounds that you know you want always to be mono or always to have the ARP engaged. It's really simple. All you need to do is go to ARP, bypass, and then change the saved value to this dash. Now when I go off it and back onto it, it'll default to being on. Even if I turn it off, there we go. The same applies to the mono button. So essentially what you could do is you could create mono and ARP versions and just duplicate them. To quickly duplicate it, just go Apple D and it will duplicate the patch, and you can label it lead or ARP or whatever, and get this list even bigger than 100 patches if you really wanted to. But that's a walkthrough video, so thanks for watching.